A gunshot shattered the quiet rhythm of the alley. The sound cracked against the brick walls and ricocheted into the night like a warning no one was prepared for. Jessica Stevens flinched so hard she dropped the bag of leftover pastries she'd packed from the hotel kitchen. They hit the asphalt, rolling away from her shoes as she pressed her back against the wall. Someone screamed at the far end of the alley. Another set of footsteps thundered closer. Jessica's heart hammered in her ribcage. She sucked in damp, metallic-tasting air and willed her trembling legs not to collapse. She had only stepped outside for a minute, just long enough to breathe after a disastrous shift that had left her humiliated, exhausted, and seconds from crying in front of guests. But now, she was in the middle of something she didn't understand. The alley behind the Royal Meridian Hotel was supposed to be where she hid from her problems, not where they multiplied. A tall man sprinted past the corner, dark coat flying open behind him as he ran straight toward her. For a split second she thought he was the one with the gun, and her stomach dropped. But then she saw his face, sharp with focus, shadowed by urgency, eyes glinting with something fierce beneath the dim lights. Not fear. Not panic. Something colder, more controlled. "Move," he said, voice low and steady, as though this wasn't chaos but an inconvenience. Jessica pushed herself off the wall and tried to run, but her ankle twisted on a broken piece of asphalt. Pain shot up her leg and she stumbled to the ground. His footsteps stopped abruptly. He crouched beside her, his hand brushing her shoulder lightly, carefully, like he wasn't used to touching people gently, yet somehow tried. "Are you hurt?" he asked. His voice was calm, but the muscles in his jaw were locked, tension radiating through him. He glanced behind them, scanning for danger. Before she could answer, two more men stormed into the alley. Her breath caught. These weren't hotel guests or security. Their movements were too sharp. Their focus too direct. They weren't drunk partygoers, they were chasing him. The man beside her stood slowly, positioning himself between her and the approaching men. He didn't turn his head when he spoke, but his tone dropped to something quieter. Firmer. "Stay behind me." Jessica didn't know him, but fear glued her to the ground, making obedience the easiest option. The men stopped a few feet away, breathing hard. One of them laughed darkly. "Nolan," he said, pointing at the tall man blocking her. "Always running. Always ruining someone's night." Her pulse spiked at the name. Nolan. Nolan Christopher. As in, that Nolan Christopher? The billionaire who owned half the company's people in the hotel whispered about? The man whose face appeared on magazine covers and business articles like he came pre-installed in every world problem and every solution? No. Couldn't be. This man was too raw, too grounded. Too real. But when Nolan finally spoke, the authority in his voice carried the same weight she'd only ever heard in news clips. "Walk away," he said. "All three of you." The men exchanged a glance, one filled with arrogance instead of fear. Jessica couldn't breathe. Couldn't blink. Couldn't understand why a billionaire, if this really was him, was in an alley alone, chased by dangerous-looking men at night behind a hotel where she earned minimum wage. The shortest of the men stepped forward. "You think your money protects you?" Nolan grabbed Jessica's wrist, not painfully, not roughly, but decisively. And then the sound returned. The gunshot wasn't aimed at them this time. It fired upward, a warning, echoing off the hotel walls. Somewhere above them, security alarms started screaming. Lights clicked on from windows. The men cursed, then sprinted out of the alley before hotel security could arrive. Nolan didn't let go of her wrist until the echoes faded. And even then, he didn't step away. He stayed close, like he was trying to calm his own adrenaline the same way she was. Jessica pulled in a shaky breath. What was that?" He didn't answer. Instead, he scanned her from head to toe, checking for injuries. You're limping. I'm fine, she whispered, even though pain burned up her ankle. Nobody is fine after someone fires a gun within 10 feet of them. His tone was too sure, too familiar with danger. Jessica rubbed her palms on her apron. Who were they? People who should have known better. That wasn't an answer. But before she could push again, her throat tightened. Not from danger, but from everything else, her awful shift, her manager yelling at her in front of guests, the rude customer who mocked her, the sting of not being able to send money home this week, the humiliation of almost crying in the hallway. She blinked hard, but a tear escaped. Great. Now she was crying in front of a stranger who could probably buy her entire life 10 times over. He noticed. Of course he did. His expression shifted, not soft, not tender, just concerned enough to make her chest ache. Hey, he said quietly. You're safe now. She believed him. And she didn't know why. She didn't know why the next words slipped out either, fragile, broken, escaping her before she could stop them. Could you, just hug me for a second? His brows drew together, confusion flickering across his face. She expected him to refuse. Or judge her. Or step away. But instead, he hesitated only long enough to read her expression, really read it, before he stepped closer. His arms wrapped around her with a care she hadn't felt in years. Not tight. Not possessive. Just steady. Warm. Grounding. She let her forehead rest against his chest, her breath uneven, her heartbeat trying to calm itself against his. He wasn't trembling like she was. But he inhaled deeply, like her request had hit somewhere he didn't expect. Jessica's voice cracked. I'm sorry. I don't know why. You don't need to explain. His voice was low, rough. Almost vulnerable. People don't ask for help until they've been alone too long. She froze. That line felt like it was coming from a place inside him that was bruised. Before she could question it, cameras flashed at the entrance of the alley. Paparazzi voices erupted. There he is, Nolan Christopher. Who's the woman? Is that his new girlfriend? Get closer. Jessica's stomach dropped. Nolan's arm tightened around her, not in affection, but in protection. Stay behind me, he said again. And for the first time tonight. She realized the man she had just fallen apart in front of wasn't just some stranger. He was the billionaire who was about to turn her life upside down. The alley exploded with chaos. Paparazzi surged forward like a pack sensing blood, their cameras firing relentlessly. Blinding flashes bounced off the wet asphalt, making it impossible for Jessica to see anything clearly except Nolan's broad shoulders shielding her from the frenzy. Nolan, look here. Is she your secret date? Turn around. Miss, what's your name? Are you two together? Don't answer anything, he said sharply, his hand closing around her forearm, not rough, but firm, guiding her backward. Every time the flashes intensified, he shifted, placing himself between her and the cameras with instinctive precision, like someone who had done this his whole life. Jessica's pulse surged. Her throat tightened. Panic crawled up the back of her neck like icy fingers. She tugged at his sleeve. No, I can't be photographed, I can't, my manager will fire me, I'll lose everything, please, make them stop. I'm trying, Nolan said, voice low but taut with frustration as he scanned the alley for an exit. He wasn't panicking, but he wasn't calm either, there was a sharpness in his eyes that suggested this was spiraling faster than even he could control. Security finally burst into the alley, hotel guards and 2 of Nolan's private detail. But they were too late. The paparazzi had already captured hundreds of shots. Sir, this way, one of his guards called, pushing toward them. Nolan moved instantly, pulling Jessica with him. Stay close to me. She didn't need to be told. Every flash felt like a knife cutting through her life. If these photos leaked, and they would, her job was gone. The hotel had a strict rule: staff weren't allowed to associate with guests, let alone be photographed hugging one of the world's richest men. She could already hear her manager's voice. Unprofessional. Embarrassing. You're fired. Her chest tightened. One of the paparazzi lunged forward, trying to push past security, and the shove knocked Jessica off balance. She stumbled, almost falling into the photographers. Nolan's hand snapped out, catching her waist before she hit the ground. That single moment, their bodies close, his arms steady around her, triggered even more camera flashes. "Great," someone yelled. "Get that." "Perfect." Jessica could barely breathe. She clung to his coat, not out of affection but survival. Everything felt too loud, too bright, too fast. Nolan leaned down, voice low near her ear. "Look at your feet." "Not at them." "Move with me." His tone was controlled, grounding. And somehow, even with chaos erupting around them, it steadied her enough to take the next step, then another. They pushed through a metal door that led into a service hallway. Security slammed it shut behind them, muffling the shouting outside. The sudden silence hit hard. Jessica sagged against the wall, chest heaving. Nolan finally released her, but slowly, like he wasn't sure she could stand on her own yet. She pressed her palms to her face. "This is bad," she whispered. "This is really, really bad." "It's under control," Nolan said. "It's not." She looked up at him, eyes glossy with tears she refused to let fall. "They took pictures. With you. Do you know what that means for someone like me?" His jaw flexed. "I know what it means for someone like me. And I'll handle it." "That's exactly the problem," she snapped. "You can handle anything. Your name fixes everything. Mine doesn't fix anything, mine just gets me fired." Silence filled the hallway. Nolan studied her. Not like a billionaire studying a problem. More like a man trying to understand a pain he didn't have a name for. Finally, he said, "Come with me." "No," she backed up instinctively. "I'm not going anywhere with you." "I'm not asking you to trust me," he said. "I'm asking you not to walk back into that alley where they're still waiting." She hesitated. He had a point. But her mind was spinning so fast everything felt blurry. "I have to go back to work," she whispered. "You won't make it 3 steps before they grab you." He wasn't wrong. The hotel's reputation was built on celebrity traffic. Paparazzi practically lived outside. They'd swarm her all over again. Her voice wavered. "I just wanted to breathe tonight. I just wanted 1 minute where nobody judged me or yelled at me or treated me like I'm invisible." Nolan's eyes softened, not pity, not sympathy. Something else. Something personal. "Jessica," he said quietly, "you're not invisible." Her breath caught. Her name. How did he? She followed his gaze downward. She was still wearing her apron with the hotel name, her shift badge clipped to it. Of course he could read it. It still felt different coming from him. Nolan took a slight step back, giving her space. "Let me get you somewhere safe. A place without cameras. I don't even know you." "My name is Nolan Christopher," he said, tone flat, like he expected that to be enough. She gave a humorless laugh. "I know who you are. Everybody knows who you are. But that doesn't mean I know you." Something flickered across his expression, surprise. Maybe even respect. "Fair enough," he said. "But the people chasing me know who I am too. And they won't stop just because you want to pretend nothing happened." Her stomach twisted. Those men. The ones who chased him. The gunshot. What was that? She asked. Who were they? People who made a bad decision tonight, Nolan said. And people I'll deal with. But you, he paused, his eyes running over her trembling hands. You don't belong in any part of this. He turned to one of his guards. Clear the lower level and bring the car around. No entrances exposed. The guard nodded and briskly walked away. Jessica stared at Nolan. I'm not getting in your car. You're limping, he said softly. And shaking. I can walk. Maybe. But not fast enough to outrun cameras or men with guns. His blunt honesty stole the strength from her argument. Her ankle throbbed. Her heart felt bruised. Her life was seconds from collapsing. She shut her eyes for a moment, steadying her breath. 5 minutes, she whispered. That's all. Then I'm leaving. Nolan's expression didn't change, but something about his posture eased. 5 minutes, he agreed. They walked together, quiet, tense, down the service hallway as his security cleared a path. A back elevator opened, and he stepped aside to let her in first. She hesitated, then entered. The doors slid shut, cutting off the noise of the hotel. Jessica leaned against the metal wall, exhaling shakily. What happened back there, she murmured, that wasn't normal, was it? No, Nolan said. It wasn't. Do you get chased like that often? He met her eyes. More often than I want to admit. Why? He didn't answer immediately. His gaze lowered to the floor. His voice dropped. Because money solves many problems. But it also creates monsters. A chill ran down her spine. Before she could press further, the elevator dinged and the doors opened to a private underground level. A sleek black car waited, engine running. Nolan gestured toward it. Just get in. I'll take you wherever you want to go. Safely. She swallowed hard. Every instinct told her she shouldn't trust a man like him. And yet. Something in his voice, steady but cracking around the edges, felt real. Human. She limped forward. And got in. The door shut with a soft thud, wrapping Jessica in the quiet luxury of Nolan's car. The interior smelled faintly of leather and something warm, amber, maybe. The kind of scent she'd only ever passed by in stores she couldn't afford to walk into. Nolan slipped into the seat beside her, closing his own door. The driver didn't look back. Jessica wasn't sure if that comforted her or made her more anxious. As the car pulled out of the underground exit, she pressed herself lightly against the door, trying to take up as little space as possible. Her ankle throbbed, her pulse unsteady, and the night's chaos bled into her limbs like a slow poison. Nolan watched her for a moment, silent, unreadable. She hated how easily he seemed to see through her, like he understood every crack she tried to hide. You're still shaking, he said quietly. I'm fine, she lied. You're a terrible liar. His bluntness made her stiffen. I don't owe you an explanation. No, he said. You don't. That should have ended the conversation. But something about the way he said it, soft, almost tired, kept her from turning away. City lights streaked past the windows as the car merged into traffic. Jessica exhaled slowly. Why were those men after you? Nolan leaned back, looking at the passing buildings. A business disagreement. Disagreement? That sounded like murder. It wasn't, he said. But it could have become that if they didn't leave. Her stomach dropped. So you deal with people who shoot at you? I deal with people, Nolan said simply. Some are worse than others. His calm unsettled her more than the chaos. He wasn't boasting. He wasn't dramatic. He was stating facts. Facts she didn't belong anywhere near. Jessica stared at her hands. I really shouldn't be here. You're safe, he repeated. That's not what I meant. Her voice cracked. I shouldn't be near, whatever world you're part of. Nolan studied her, long enough for her pulse to trip over itself. I didn't ask you to be part of my world, he said. You just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. It was meant to be honest. She turned her face toward the window, overwhelmed again. Nolan didn't push further. The silence between them settled into something heavy but not hostile. When the car stopped at a red light, Jessica finally whispered, "You're different from what people say about you." "What do they say?" "That you're cold. Untouchable. Calculated. The kind of man who forgets people exist the second he looks away." He didn't react, not with anger, not with amusement. "And what do you think?" he asked. She swallowed. "I think, maybe you forget yourself before you forget anyone else." His head turned. For the first time since she met him, something flickered in his eyes, something vulnerable, painful, gone as soon as it appeared. He looked away. "You don't know me." "You're right," she murmured. "I don't." Traffic eased, and the car began to move again. Nolan's driver took a turn she didn't recognize, passing through quieter streets. Jessica straightened. "This isn't the way to my apartment." Nolan answered without looking at her. "You don't think I'm letting you walk home after what just happened, do you?" "I said just 5 minutes. And I said I'd take you wherever you wanted to go. Then take me home." His jaw tensed. "No." Her pulse skipped. "Excuse me?" "You live in a walk-up near the Westline Bridge," he said, glancing briefly toward her apron badge again. "Which means the paparazzi will reach it before we do." Her stomach nodded. He was right. If anyone followed them, if anyone got her home address, her life would be over. The tension in her chest grew tighter. "So what do you want me to do? Stay with you? Let the media decide I'm your mistress or something?" Nolan finally turned to face her, sharply. "Don't put my name next to you like that. I would never let anyone label you like that." Something electric ran through her ribs. "And no," he added. "I don't want you to stay with me." Somehow, his tone made it sound like the opposite was also true, that he didn't want her to leave. "My offer is simple," Nolan said carefully. "One night. One safe place. No cameras. No reporters. No one following you home. Then, tomorrow, you can go back to your life." Jessica looked away, instinctively pulling her knees closer. "My life isn't exactly worth protecting," she muttered. His voice sharpened. "Don't say that." "It's true," she said, bitterness rising. "I work double shifts, get yelled at by my manager every day, live in a moldy apartment with a leaking bathroom, and I'm behind on rent. I have zero savings, zero safety, and no one who's going to come looking if I vanish for a night. So trust me, my life isn't worth all this trouble." Nolan inhaled slowly. Deeply. Like her words hit somewhere he couldn't deflect. "Jessica," he said quietly, "you're wrong." She shook her head. "You barely know me. I know what it looks like when someone keeps surviving things they shouldn't have had to." His voice softened, but didn't waver. "I know what exhaustion looks like, real exhaustion. Not from work, but from being let down too many times. And I know what someone looks like when they're one step away from giving up on themselves." Her throat closed. "You saw me for 5 minutes," she whispered. "You don't get to analyze me." "You asked me to hug you," Nolan said, his eyes locked on hers. "That tells me everything I need to know." Heat climbed up her neck. Shame, humiliation, fear, every emotion she didn't have the energy to hide. "That was a mistake," she said. "I shouldn't have asked. I shouldn't have." "It wasn't a mistake." She stopped breathing. Nolan's voice dipped lower. It was the most honest moment I've had in years. The car turned into a private gated lane. Jessica swore under her breath. No. Absolutely not. Where are we? My secondary property, he said casually. Less cameras. No press access. You're taking me to your house. Not my house, he said. Just a place where you won't be hunted by reporters or criminals. That's not better. His lips twitched, almost a smile, almost frustration. Would you rather I drop you off on a street corner with a twisted ankle? That's not fair. Neither is tonight, he said simply. The car rolled to a stop in front of a discreet 3-story townhouse, modern, quiet, unassuming. Nothing about it screamed billionaire. No grand gates. No giant gardens. Just stillness. The driver stepped out and opened Jessica's door before she could protest again. Nolan remained inside for a moment, watching her carefully, as though he expected her to bolt. I'm not kidnapping you, he said gently. You're free to leave whenever you want. She hesitated. Fear pulled her backward. Instinct pulled her forward. Exhaustion made the decision for her. Jessica stepped out. Her ankle buckled instantly. She inhaled sharply. Nolan was already at her side, catching her before she fell. Their faces were inches apart. His breath warm. His eyes darker than she remembered. You need rest, he murmured. His hand lingered on her waist a second too long before he pulled back. Jessica's voice trembled. Just, no more surprises. Nolan stepped ahead, opening the front door. No promises, he murmured. And somehow, that scared her more than the gunshot. Jessica stepped through the doorway with the strange, trembling caution of someone who wasn't sure whether to breathe or run. The townhouse interior was warm, dimly lit, and silent, so silent it felt like a different world entirely. Like the universe outside had paused just long enough for her to catch her collapsing breath. Nolan closed the door behind them with a soft click. It sounded final. Too final. Jessica turned, pulse tapping wildly beneath her skin. I said one night. That's all. I heard you, Nolan replied quietly. And I'm keeping that. But his tone said something else. Not possession. Not demand. Just a quiet certainty, like he intended to protect her even if she hated him for it. He walked ahead without touching her again, but she still felt the lingering imprint of his hand on her waist. She hated that her body remembered it. Hated that her heart reacted before she could stop it. Sit, he said, nodding toward the velvet sofa in the living room. Let me get something for your ankle. I can. You can barely stand. His voice left no room for argument. She sank onto the sofa, more from exhaustion than obedience. Every muscle in her body felt like it had run through fire and ice in the same hour. Nolan disappeared into another room. Jessica scanned the townhouse. It was, shockingly simple. Clean lines. Muted colors. Soft lighting. No artwork screaming about wealth. No gold accents. No ego. It felt lonely. A space designed by someone who didn't want to be seen, even inside his own walls. Her chest tightened. Nolan returned with a small medical kit and knelt in front of her. Let me see. She hesitated. I can do it. I know, he said softly. But let me. Something about the way he said it made her breath catch. Like this wasn't about helping her ankle. Like this was about something deeper, giving what he didn't know how to put into words. She slowly extended her leg. Nolan's fingers brushed her skin lightly as he inspected the swelling. His touch was careful. Intent. Reverent almost, like he wasn't used to touching people, but when he did, he meant every second of it. You twisted it pretty badly, he murmured. Hold still. As he wrapped the bandage, Jessica studied the man crouched before her. The world called him cold, heartless, untouchable. But here, kneeling on hardwood floors, jaw tight with worry, he looked anything but. "What happened to you tonight?" she asked. Not accusing. Just desperate to understand. He paused but didn't look up. "Nothing I couldn't handle." "That's not true." His hands stilled. "You were running," she whispered. "From men with guns. From something dangerous. What did they want from you?" Nolan exhaled slowly. "Power. Leverage. A mistake they thought I'd pay for." "Did you make that mistake?" He finally looked up. His eyes. God, they were full of something dark. Heavy. Self-contained. "Yes," he said. And the honesty hit her like a punch. No billionaire ever admitted mistakes, certainly not ones that got them shot at. Jessica swallowed. "So I got dragged into something because of your mistake." "If I could take that back," Nolan said, voice dropping lower, "I would." "You didn't deserve any part of tonight." She surprised herself by whispering, "Neither did you." Their eyes held. Too long. Too intensely. Too dangerously. Nolan cleared his throat, finishing the bandage. "You'll need to rest that foot for a day." "That's not possible. I have a double shift tomorrow." "You're not going to that shift." "I need the money. And I'll gladly pay the hotel's lost wages if I have to." "No." She jerked back. "I won't let you pull me into your world like that." His expression froze. "I'm not trying to pull you anywhere." "Yes, you are. Every second I stay here, I'm being dragged deeper." His jaw tightened. "You're here because you're not safe out there." "Then tell me what's after you," she snapped, voice breaking. "Tell me why men were shooting at you. Tell me why paparazzi stalk you like you breathe gold. Tell me why everyone whispers your name like a warning." Her breathing hitched. She hated how loud she sounded. But she needed answers. She needed something to make this nightmare feel logical. Nolan didn't move. Didn't blink. When he finally spoke, his voice came heavy with a truth he didn't want to give. "My family." Jessica blinked. "Your family?" "The Christopher empire wasn't built cleanly," he said quietly. "And not everyone who helped build it believes I deserve to lead it. Some want my seat. Some want my downfall. And tonight was a message," he finished. "A reminder that money doesn't make me untouchable. They wanted to intimidate me. Or worse." Her stomach twisted. "So I really could have died out there," she whispered. "And I didn't even know why." Nolan's voice wavered, barely, but she heard it. "I didn't want you anywhere near this. I still don't." For a man famous for control, his hands trembled slightly. Jessica softened. Just a little. Enough to see the man beneath the steel. "Why didn't you run faster?" she asked quietly. "Why stop for me?" Nolan's eyes locked onto hers. "Because you fell." "So? So I don't leave people behind," he said, voice almost breaking. "Not anymore." Something raw flickered inside him, something carved from regret and shaped by ghosts. Jessica swallowed hard, her ribs tightening with something she didn't want to name. "Maybe I shouldn't have asked you for that hug." "Don't apologize for that," Nolan murmured. "You asked me for something real. And that's unusual for you?" Painfully. Silence. Warm. Heavy. Almost tender. Jessica leaned back into the sofa, exhaustion tugging at her eyelids. Nolan stood, watching her with a mixture of worry and something deeper he kept trying to hide. "You should rest," he said softly. "There's a guest room upstairs. You'll be safe there." Are you going to sit outside the door with a gun or something? He huffed a quiet breath, almost a laugh, almost grief. I don't need a gun to keep you safe. Why? She whispered. Why are you being like this with me? Nolan took one slow step closer. Then another. Until he was standing right in front of her. Because you're the first person in a long time who wasn't afraid to cry in front of me, he said. And the first person I've wanted to protect, without being paid to. Jessica's heart stopped. She didn't know if she was scared, or falling. Maybe both. Nolan. I'm not asking for anything, he said. Not trust. Not forgiveness. Not even understanding. He paused. I'm just asking you to sleep in peace for one night. Her chest ached. Her voice barely worked. Okay. His shoulders loosened, relief disguised beneath control. He helped her up gently, his hands steady at her back, and guided her toward the stairs. But halfway up, she felt him watching her. Not like a man admiring a woman. But like someone afraid she would disappear at any second. And in that moment, Jessica realized. She wasn't the only one who needed saving tonight. Jessica didn't let herself look back, not until she reached the landing and felt steady enough to breathe without shaking. Nolan's footsteps stayed at the base of the stairs, unmoving, as if he didn't trust himself to follow her any farther. She didn't know what that meant. She didn't know what anything meant anymore. But her heart. God, her heart wouldn't stop pounding. She reached the guest bedroom door and stepped inside. The room was simple, soft gray walls, clean sheets, warm lighting. A room meant for comfort, but not meant for guests. Not really. There were no personal touches. No clutter. No sign someone ever stayed here. It was a room prepared out of obligation, not expectation. She turned as Nolan stopped in the doorway, leaning against the frame like something heavier than exhaustion was pressing on his shoulders. If you need anything, he said quietly, I'll be downstairs. I won't leave the house tonight. Because of them? She asked. His jaw flexed. Because you're here. Her breath caught. He nodded once, slow, controlled, then turned to leave. Jessica hesitated. Nolan? He paused without fully facing her. Did you mean it? She whispered. What you said downstairs? A muscle in his cheek twitched, just once, but enough to crack something inside him. I don't lie about things like that. Then he walked away. No grand exit. No dramatic door slam. Just silence. The kind that sank under her skin. Jessica closed the door softly and leaned her back against it, letting the stillness wash over her. She felt safe, safer than she should be in the home of a man she barely knew, a man whose life was surrounded by danger. But she also felt something else. Something she didn't trust. Something she didn't want to feel. Something she wasn't ready for. Her vision blurred as exhaustion finally wrapped its arms around her. She slipped beneath the covers, wincing slightly at the throb in her ankle, and let her eyes drift closed. She fell asleep quickly. Too quickly. Like her body finally surrendered after fighting for too long. She woke to a sound. A low, unfamiliar thud. Jessica blinked into the darkness, heart immediately racing. The room was quiet, too quiet, but the sound had come from the hallway. A movement. A shift. Something that didn't belong in a sleeping house. Her pulse hammered. Then. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Not Nolan's. She knew that instantly. His steps were lighter, smoother, more controlled. These steps were searching. Dragging. Hunting. Jessica's breath caught. The doorknob jiggled. Once. Twice. Her blood went cold. Nolan? she whispered, barely audible. The footsteps stopped. The knob stilled. And then, a voice. A man's voice, low and unfamiliar. Wrong room. Jessica clamped a hand over her mouth. She didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't dare blink. The footsteps continued down the hall. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears so loud she almost didn't hear the distant clatter downstairs, glass breaking, something heavy hitting a wall, a muffled grunt. Nolan. He wasn't safe. Not anymore. Jessica threw the covers off and stumbled out of bed, pain shooting up her injured ankle, but adrenaline swallowed it whole. She cracked the door open just enough to see two men in black pushing deeper into the house. And Nolan. Pinned behind the kitchen island, furious and cornered. Her breath shook. They found him. Here. They found him in his own home. She didn't think. She didn't plan. She just moved. Jessica grabbed the closest object on the hallway table, a heavy marble vase, and limped down the stairs with the quiet desperation of someone who didn't know what bravery looked like until she was forced into it. When she reached the bottom, one of the intruders spotted her. Hey! Jessica swung. The vase slammed into his temple with a sickening crack. He stumbled, swore, reached for her, but Nolan surged forward with a speed that didn't seem human. He grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him onto the kitchen island. Hard. The second intruder lunged at Nolan, knife glinting under the dim lights. Jessica screamed his name. Nolan. He ducked just in time, the blade slicing the air where his throat had been a second earlier. He kicked the man's leg out, grabbed his wrist, twisted, and the knife clattered across the floor. The intruder shoved him into the counter. They fought, violent, messy, nothing like the clean action scenes Jessica had seen in movies. This was raw. Desperate. Dangerous. Too dangerous. The man Jessica hit earlier recovered faster than she expected. He lunged toward her again. Jessica stumbled back, ankle screaming. Before he reached her. Before she could even think. Nolan grabbed the first man's head, slammed it into the counter, then turned with a feral intensity she'd never seen in any human being. Don't touch her. His voice was a threat. A promise. A warning carved in steel. He charged, tackling the man away from Jessica, sending both of them crashing into the dining table. Wood splintered. A chair toppled. Nolan pinned him, fist raised. Nolan, stop. Her voice cracked. For a second, just a single heartbeat, Nolan froze. And in that second, the intruder beneath him groaned. That was enough. Nolan knocked him out cold. Silence fell. A thick, ringing, suffocating silence. Jessica's chest rose and fell in sharp, panicked gasps. Her ankle throbbed. Her vision spun. The adrenaline that had carried her down the stairs drained all at once. And then Nolan was in front of her. Hands cupping her face. Eyes full of a terror she didn't understand at first. Jessica, he choked. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? Tell me. I'm fine, she whispered, shaking. I'm okay. You shouldn't have come downstairs, he rasped, voice raw. You could have been, God, you could have. I wasn't going to let you fight them alone. His hands trembled. Not from the fight. From fear. From the realization that she had risked her life for him. Don't do that, he whispered. Don't ever do that. Don't ask me to stay safe while you're dying, she shot back. Their breaths collided. Their foreheads nearly touched. He swallowed hard. Jessica. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. You told me I wasn't safe out there. But I'm not safe anywhere, am I? His throat bobbed. Not while I'm the one they want. She stared at him, really stared. Not at the billionaire. Not at the man with enemies. Not at the one-night mistake who became something else. She saw the truth. All of it. You didn't drag me into your world, she whispered. I walked in. His breath hitched. And now, she added softly, painfully, I'm in too deep. He closed his eyes like he couldn't bear that truth. But then he whispered something that broke her open. Then let me protect you properly. Jessica's voice was almost a sob. How? By not letting you go. The words hit the air like a confession he wasn't supposed to say. Like a promise he wasn't ready to make. Like a truth he couldn't take back. Jessica's whole body trembled. Nolan, things don't happen this fast. Everything tonight happened too fast, he said, stepping closer, voice shaking. But my feelings didn't. Silence. Thick. Electric. Terrifying. Jessica exhaled shakily, her voice barely a whisper. What happens now? Nolan looked at her with a mixture of protectiveness, fear, and something dangerously close to longing. Now, he said, I get you out of here before they come back. And then? His reply was barely a breath. Then I make sure I never lose you. Jessica's heart cracked wide open. And in that moment, after a night of running, fighting, breaking, surviving, she knew one thing with painful clarity. She wasn't leaving him. Not now. Not after this. Not after everything. Even if it destroyed them both. If you loved this story, hit like, drop a comment and subscribe for more stories like this one. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. Until next time, this is Soul Storyverse TV.